Hello. In this tutorial I hope to show you how to use the drawing program Fusion 360. The project that we're doing is called CO2 Racer or Dragster project. What I'd like to do is break it into a number of areas. The first thing we need to understand is the specifications. I'm going to sketch up the parts and then introduce how I'll draw it in Fusion and then put it onto a piece of paper. First thing we need is our specifications piece of paper, which tell me a few numbers that are interesting. First one is that the piece is going to be between 200 and 305. The width is 42 mil, which is crucial, and it talks about the front and back wheel. So from that specifications piece of paper, we now know what we need to draw. Firstly, in Fusion, there is an assembly. It has a figure that looks like that, and it's made up with from a number of parts. We know that there are 4 parts. The first is going to be the body. Excuse me. The second is going to be the axle. We need a front wheel and a back wheel. From those specifications, I know that the body is going to be 42 mil wide. I'm going to make it 50 tall and 250 mil long. The axle needs to protrude outside my 42, so I'm going to make it 50 wide. I'm going to make it a diameter of 3 mil. That means that on the body, the 2 holes will need to be 3 mil to fit that axle. The front wheel and the back wheel are different. The back wheel is bigger and thicker. Front wheel is quite slender. So this is going to be 5 mil thick and it has a diameter of 35. This wheel here is going to be 15 thick and has a diameter of 40 mil. Now we've loaded up Fusion, we can make those 4 parts. The first thing we need to do is go up the top here, right click and create new component. You'll notice that the symbol has changed to that assembly symbol, and there is one part underneath it, or component, called component 1. I'm going to do that 3 more times. New component, new component, new component. I'm going to go to the first of these components and double tap. This one is going to be called the body. I can go to the second one of these and call it the axle, and so on. Make sure that you do this in capitals, and I'll explain that later. Now that I've made my 4 parts, the last one that I created is the active component. I need to go up to the top to body and click the dot next to it to make it the active component. I'm going to draw a rectangle and it'll come up with a dihedral box, and I'm going to select that vertical plane. I'm going to click at the origin and drag the rectangle, and I can tab between the 2 numbers. The bottom dimension needs to be 42. The other one I've chosen as 50 mil. I'm now going to extrude, and a pop-up appears. It asks me to select a surface, and I can drag that forward a distance of 250 mil. The last thing that I'm going to do is put 2 holes in it. The way that I'm going to do this is by putting points on that front face. So I'm going to select that the front wheel needs to go there, and the back wheel needs to go there. Once I've got those 2, I can then go to the create, and halfway down there's a hole command. I need to select those 2 points, and I need to drag the hole all the way through the object. It's already set for a distance of 3 mil. If I change that and made it 33, you can see the diameter change. Once I've selected 3 mil, I've now made 2 holes going through my body. The next part that I want to draw is the axle, so I need to make it the active component. I'm going to sketch a circle. I'm going to pick a plane, and I'm going to drag a distance of 3 mil and press enter. Once I've done that, I can extrude it. I need to select that portion, and I need to drag that forward a distance of 50 mil and press enter. The next component we need to draw is the front wheel. I select and make it active. I'm going to use a sketch command, and the sketch command is going to be a circle. I'm going to select the plane. I'm going to start with the center, which is going to have a radius of 3 mil, and press enter. I'm then going to draw the next part, the next circle, which is going to be the outside, using the same center point, but it's going to have a radius of 35. Once I've done that, I can extrude, and it's probably a better idea to look at it in the isometric view. Select that plane and drag it forward only a small distance of 3 mil. It doesn't look all that interesting, so I'm going to draw another circle on that plane. I'm going to zoom in and make sure that the centers are the same, and now I can extrude that portion out and make it look a little bit more like the rim. The next wheel we're going to use a revolve command. What I'm going to do is start with an axle, an axis, and then going to draw some sort of a profile, and there's going to be a gap, and the gap is going to be 1.5 mil. And the reason is that I'm going to revolve around that particular surface, and I'll end up with this one is only a 270 revolve, but I'll end up with a revolve surface at 360, and the distance from one side to the other needs to be a diameter of 3 mil. Now I've ducked ahead and I've drawn that geometry, so I've got the outside, or from the centre of the wheel to the outside, has a distance of 20 mil, so when it revolves it'll be 40, and that little gap there is 1.5. So I go up to the create, and the second or third option down is revolve. I need to select the profile, and then I need to select the axis, which is that one. I'm going to tilt this into isometric view, and I'm going to make it a distance. Select the axis. So what I've got is an entire revolve command that's gone all the way around. For argument's sake, I'll now make it 360 degrees. And so there is my wheel revolved around the centre. There are two commands that I'd like to show you. The first one is a mirror constraint. Firstly, we need to work out how to sequence things. So the first thing that I'm going to do is extrude portions of my car. The second thing I want to do is the geometry just on one side of the vehicle, and then I can mirror it to the other. To give an example, I might want to do a window, and just extrude that piece into the car. Once I've done that, I need to have a plane that goes all the way through the object, through the centre, and I can select pieces of geometry and repeat it to the other side. So, with my body selected, the first thing that I'm going to do is put in a plane. I need to select one of these surfaces and click and drag the plane back towards the centre. I know that the vehicle is 42 mil wide, so half of that will be 21 mil, but it needs to be minus 21, so it travels towards the centre of the vehicle. I can then press OK, and that will remain. I've extruded one particular line in order to give the car a little bit of shape. I'm going to draw a very, very awkward looking window, so I select that front face. I'm going to draw a line which goes along the base. It's going to taper up. I will select and make sure that it's a fully enclosed object. Once I've done that, I'm going to then extrude that particular portion, and rather than adding material, I'm going to cut it into the vehicle, probably only a distance of 5 mil, and press OK. Before I do too much more, I'm going to mirror that from one side to the other. So what I need to do is select the mirror command, which is hiding down the bottom of create. I need to select that object. Now the way that it is done is it's not a face, it's actually a feature, and the features of these objects at the bottom of the screen, as I float over those, they should highlight. That was the last feature that I drew, so it will encapsulate that window, and then I press select on the mirror plane, which is that orange one through the centre, and press OK. So what it should do now is actually create a mirror of that particular window. It is possible to select a number of features, so you could do a running board, fins, windows, two at a time, and mirror them all at the same. Another thing that we can do is a circular pattern. I'm going to go to the front wheel and make it my active component. I'm going to draw some very, very simple geometry. So the geometry I want to do will be, I'll pick a polygon, it's going to be on that surface. I'm going to zoom in and draw a very awkward looking hexagon. I'm going to extrude that particular piece, and like before I can either push it all the way in or I can cut all the way through and press OK. Now what I'm going to do is go to Create. I'm going to go down the bottom to Pattern, and what I want is a circular pattern. So I need to pick that geometry, and like before it's not a face, it's actually a feature. The feature is the last one that I drew. I'm looking for the axis, which is any of these circles, and then I can increase the number. So that's what, 3, 4, I will put 6 of these on and press OK, so it should do 6 holes at once. The next part is to assemble this car. First thing that I need to do is go to Assemble, Join. I'm going to select the end of the axis, or the axle, and I'm going to select the hole where it belongs, and it will animate it, putting in place. I need that to protrude a little bit, probably a distance of -5 would be good. I need to then put the wheel on in exactly the same way. So Assemble, Joint, I want to select, making sure you select the end of the circle. So I need to select that part, select the axis. It positions it, but it's the wrong direction. So it is possible to use the flip key, and that will rotate it. I need to make sure that this is out a little bit further. You can see that it's touching my car. So what I can do is physically see that it needs to be a further 5 mm out, and press OK. I now need to copy some of these components. So the axle, I'm going to make it the active component, and I'm going to say right click, copy. I'm going to go back to my original assembly and make it active, and then say right click, paste. So what that's going to do is put a second axle on my drawing. I do exactly the same with the front and back wheels. So make them active, right click, copy, go to the assembly, right click, paste. I've now got 2 front wheels and 2 back wheels that I can assemble. Now the last part is to put this onto a piece of paper. Up the top under Model, we need to go to Drawing, and we asked it to come from the design. So what it's going to do is start with the full assembly, and we'll press OK. It'll open up a piece of paper and give us the option of putting it on. On this sheet of paper I want an isometric and an orthographic projection. We're going to put a parts list and some dimensions. So the first thing is the car is attached to my mouse, but it's far too small. So I'm going to actually increase the scale. If I make it 1:1, that might be a little bit large. I can't tell from this position. So what I'm going to do is actually have a look at the left-hand view, and I might make that just a little bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is put a front view. I'm going to project drawings from that. So above it I would like a top view and an end view. And while I've got it there, I'm also going to draw a pictorial or an isometric down at the bottom. I say right click and press OK. This picture's in the wrong place, so I'll need to move it up. I'm going to edit this one. The way that I'm going to edit it is I'm going to turn on the colour, and I want it to be a little bit larger, so I'd like this one to be 1:1. I can press close, and then I can position it back where it'll fit onto the page. I need to do some dimensions. The better option for dimensions are linear dimensions, and this is where I can select the length of the vehicle, the width of the vehicle, and possibly the height. I need to put some text on it, so these views need to be called front view, top view and end view. So this is again top view, all in capitals. And that should be positioned in the centre of the drawing. Another thing that we need to do is a parts list and balloons. Balloons are hiding up the top here, and this is where we can select the vehicle. We can select the wheel and the back wheel and possibly an axle, which will be difficult to find. Once we've done that, then we can put the parts, then we can put the table on our drawing, and this will have reference to all of those. So it'll tell us we have a back wheel, a front wheel, and what they're made of. So the finished drawing should have 5 components. It'll have a parts list, an orthographic, isometric, balloons, and words and text for the dimensions.